Okay. All right. Bye, Laura. Good night. Have a great tour in Ohio. Sorry, folks. Well, thanks for letting us know. That's a bummer. That's the first time that happened. Okay, I'm just going to make this work. The script is going to be a little bit funky since it's supposed to be both of us. But hey, Don. Hey, Bill. Hey, Greg. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the loves. Okay, we'll go ahead. So, hey, everybody. This is Caitlin Saposi Belknap. I'm Move to Amend's National Director. And welcome to this edition of Move to Amend's monthly live stream, the Move to Amend Report. This is the space where you can learn the latest about what's going down in the movement to amend the U.S. Constitution and legalize democracy. And I really encourage your participation as we go along. So if you have any questions for the national team, please make a comment during the live stream and we will answer your question in real time. Thank you to Garrett, who's helping me field those questions. So I'll either answer them here online, on the video, or Garrett might type an answer if it would be better to direct you to a link or something like that. And if you're not listening to us live, but you're tuning into the recording, we'll still be monitoring the comments. And so feel free to post your question at any point and we will get back to you as well. And we always welcome your suggestions for improvement. So one thing I'll put on the list, making sure that you can hear both of us. So please let us know how these live streams are working out for you. And don't hesitate to offer feedback either in comments or you can contact us directly. I'll let you know the ways to do that at the end. So we wanted to talk before we got started on what's going on with Move to Amend about some current events like we always do. And, really there's no way to not talk about how the entire month of September was filled with devastating hurricanes. Houston and Florida residents were hit really hard, but most have overcome the worst of the storms. And thinking of everybody who's still working on that and repairing damage. I know our Florida affiliates, some of our folks in Pensacola, for example, had to evacuate. And so thinking of you, hoping everything is okay and gets back to normal soon. But also really wanted to talk about Puerto Rico. Which is in the middle of a real humanitarian crisis right now. There's no electricity for 3.4 million people. There's dwindling water and food resources. Roadways have been destroyed. Entire communities have been cut off from emergency relief and have no idea when emergency relief is going to show up. And one thing that I've been seeing in the news is a real lack of understanding about the fact that Puerto Ricans are actually U.S. citizens, the same as Texans and Floridians, and millions are struggling with what is being described as an apocalyptic situation, and Donald Trump spent the whole weekend attacking black athletes protesting police brutality instead of being president. He basically has been ignoring the crisis in Puerto Rico. He finally acknowledged the situation with some tweets, which, this is our reality here, and said that supplies were on the way, but not before taking time to prioritize Wall Street above all else. Not only does he mention how Puerto Rico's corporate debt needs to be paid in this moment of crisis, but he hesitated for 9 whole days to issue a waiver of the Jones Act, which is a law that restricts transportation of people and cargo between U.S. coastal points to U.S.-made shipping vessels. So the areas that were affected by Hurricane Maria were delayed in getting the help that they needed because of the Jones Act, and the president has the authority to waive it, and he wasted a bunch of time doing that. But he did authorize the same waiver for after Harvey and Irma. So, really putting Puerto Ricans at the bottom of the list. And, I can't help but seem pretty obvious as to why Puerto Ricans and the Latino folks who live in Puerto Rico are not being prioritized the way that folks who live in the mainland United States. So if you haven't seen the devastation, it's a really good idea to take a look and to become conscious and aware of what's going on. The photos from the island underwater and destroyed are very heartbreaking. And, only a fake populist would be more worried about Wall Street profits than the millions of U.S. citizens who need help in Puerto Rico right now. And worse than that is the slow response by the Trump administration, because that's just only making things worse. So there's not only what happened in the storm, but there's all the aftermath, and the lack of action is going to mean, that more people end up, unfortunately, probably dead as a result of this tragedy. So we need to remember that Puerto Ricans are legal U.S. citizens. The federal government classifies them as a U.S. territory, aka a colony. And because of the status, they're denied the ability to vote for the president, and they have no political power in Congress. They have a representative who has no vote, and that leaves them really vulnerable to the whims of self-serving politicians in Washington, D.C. So the situation is very profoundly undemocratic, incredibly heartbreaking, and it is important that we all speak up on behalf of our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Frankly, the fact that they're U.S. citizens, shouldn't be the only thing that matters in terms of caring about them, but the fact that they are U.S. citizens and they're being treated as second-class citizens is really, really very alarming. So the other piece about the whole situation in Puerto Rico is the possibility that their utility services could be sold to the highest bidder and privatized, which is almost always good for corporate profits and bad for people. Some other examples that come to mind: the situation in Detroit and Flint under emergency management, privatized prisons and immigrant detention centers. When those are privatized, it ends up being worse for the people who are in them. Private charter schools and universities, privatized health insurance. Privatization really means corporate profits and underserving people, because bottom line, and making a profit becomes the highest agenda. So on top of everything else happening to Puerto Rico, that's what they're probably facing with their utility system if Trump and corporate leaders have their way. So we wanted to talk about all that, and we also want to make sure to name that climate change continues to play an increasing role in the intensity of the storms that we're seeing. It's not a coincidence that there were 3 record-breaking hurricanes in the same month. This is the new normal, and it's only going to continue to get worse as our country and therefore, really the rest of the world refuses to address climate change. So we also want to make sure everyone knows that a recent climate accountability report found that just 100 multinational corporations are responsible for more than 70% of greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere. So they're continuing to leverage corporate constitutional rights and money as speech in order to keep polluting their way to warmer oceans and stronger storms for the sake of short-term profits. So we're really in a bad situation, and it is directly a result of corporate rule. And our thoughts and prayers and resources are being sent to our friends in Puerto Rico, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to do something about it. The other thing that's been going on all week that I'm sure you've seen is that there has been this conversation about the ongoing protests against racial injustice coming from professional athletes during the national anthem at actually not just football games, but kind of starting there. So we just wanted to talk about this because in the context of building movement, the tactic of civil disobedience is a really important piece of that. And there's a wide range of opinions that people hold on protest tactics and strategy, but we have to understand that white supremacy has never tolerated a peaceful protest. So whether it's the sit-ins at whites-only lunch counters, refusing to give up a seat on the bus, or kneeling during the national anthem, the First Amendment protects the rights of all people to peacefully assemble and express themselves. There's some of us within Move to Amend who might feel uncomfortable about protesting the Star-Spangled Banner or the U.S. flag, but we need to be made to feel uncomfortable in order to learn to acknowledge the problem with racism and empathize with those who have been experiencing its oppression. And, I've been reading articles about how Colin Kaepernick and his colleagues who first kneeled, are really being misrepresented when it's being presented as a disrespect to the flag or to this country. They were very intentional about thinking about, rather than sitting, kneeling kind of as a sign of of respect and also a plea to pay attention. So it's sort of like, putting the flag upside down in a military situation to indicate, a Mayday crisis situation. That's what the knee is meant to be. And so whether you agree with it or not, at least please don't misstate where they're coming from. It was actually, they were very intentional about trying to be respectful. So that has been going on, and really unfortunate the way our president has been handling it. But the power of civil disobedience doesn't just lie within the act of protesting itself, but rather the future conversations that are spurred by it. That's part of the whole point. And so there's no question that Colin Kaepernick and now others kneeling during the national anthem in protest of police brutality and other forms of racial violence against people of color, if that hadn't happened, we as a country wouldn't be having this conversation right now, which is what the point of civil disobedience is. So from everything I can see, it's actually proving to be effective, and it also, unfortunately, is showing, that we still have a major race issue in this country, and that is part of why Move to Amend will continue to talk about how race and racism is part of the story of the United States, and also when we're talking about who is a person and whether human beings have personhood, compared to corporations, that it's important that we also talk about the history of all of the persons who have not had full personhood in this country, and it's still debatable whether, especially Black people and people of color, still do. So we can't leave that out of the mix. So that was meant to be a conversation that Laura and I were going to have together. Also would welcome any thoughts that you have to add to the mix. We've been posting some articles about civil disobedience, certainly been posting about Puerto Rico and the situation with the climate change hurricanes, and we'll continue to do that and invite you to engage with us and speak with us about this and other issues of corporate rule and white supremacy that are affecting everything that we're trying to do to bring about social change in this country. So let's talk about September at Move to Amend. The big highlight from this month is 5 new co-sponsors to the We the People Amendment in the House of Representatives. So that brings our total to 48 plus Rick Nolan, our lead sponsor. 49, we're almost to 50. And to put that in context, our goal for the year was 35 co-sponsors. So we've easily achieved that thanks to our amazing and committed supporters and volunteers who have kept pressuring their representatives until they signed on. The 5 new co-sponsors who have come on this month are Adam Smith from Washington's 9th District, Al Lawson Jr. from Florida's 5th District, Mark DeSaulnier from California's 11th District, Joe Kennedy from Massachusetts' 4th District, and Niki Tsongas from Massachusetts' 3rd District. So thanks so much to our volunteers and supporters in Washington, Florida, California, and Massachusetts who made all of that happen. The meetings that you held in August with all 5 of these representatives paid off. So thank you very much. Great work, everyone. And let's keep the momentum going. Let's at least get to 50 this year. We're so close in the House. And a reminder that one of our goals that we haven't yet achieved for 2017 is getting our We the People Amendment introduced in the Senate. So we're currently in a big push to get letters to the editor in local papers calling on senators by name to introduce the We the People Amendment in the U.S. Senate. If you'd be willing to submit a letter, we urge you and request that you sign up to do so. So Garrett will post the link where you can do that. We'll get you the materials that you need to get started. Want to name that some of the key states that we're hoping might pan out the best for senators are Washington State, California, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Ohio, Rhode Island, Montana. So if you live in any of those states or have friends in any of those states, we would love it if you would sign up to write a letter to the editor and urge your senator or senators to introduce a companion bill to House Joint Resolution 48 in the Senate. So let's go ahead and give you a moment to do that. Garrett posted the link. Oops, I'm trying to see here. I see a couple, just so Garrett, you know, I see some comments, but I'm not, they're getting cut off as I'm looking on my phone. So if you can help me out by making sure to post those in the chat, I do want to make sure to respond to everything that anybody is saying to me. And so please let me know what that is. Want to give a shout out to some awesome Move to Amend affiliates who were doing some great things in September. Anchorage, Alaska, Move to Amend put on a really unique event for Constitution Day. They partnered with the Center for Advancing Faculty Excellence and Difficult Dialogues Initiative and the Seawolf Debate Program to hold a public debate and faculty forum on whether corporations are not people for Constitution Day in their community. So we're hoping that we can get a bit of a write-up of that so that anybody who would like to do something similar, whether for Constitution Day next year or at any point in the year, could look into doing that, and involving high school students and faculty in the conversation about whether corporations should have constitutional rights. Hey, Garrett, I need you to, let's see, put this in the chat of the document, because if you do it in the Hangout, I will not be able to see it. So if this is the one that you posted, the comment from Dawn about, I've been wondering about any past or present efforts to get Bernie Sanders to sponsor the We the People Amendment, then I've seen it, and I will answer that right now. So yes, Bernie Sanders has been one of our priority senators. I mean, it only just makes sense, right? Sanders has certainly said a number of things about Citizens United and money in politics, and also corporations not having constitutional rights, but oddly enough, is not yet a supporter of the We the People Amendment. And we have met with his office, not this year, actually, because we didn't get a response when we tried in the spring, but in years past, and made the case. So far, Sanders has supported the amendment that really would just address money in politics, that would simply overturn Citizens United by declaring that Congress does have the authority to regulate campaign spending, which is what Citizens United basically took away. The Supreme Court decision took away Congress's authority to regulate campaign spending. That obviously doesn't go far enough. I mean, we can't just go back to the politics of 2009, and that's all we do with this amendment. So we've been trying to help Sanders see that now is the opportunity to actually systemically solve the problem, which means that we need to not just overturn Citizens United, but the doctrines underlying Citizens United, corporate constitutional rights, and money as speech as a whole. And we'll continue to work on that. If folks live in Vermont or are connected with Sanders' organizations or the work he does, I would encourage you to help him to understand kind of the bigger picture of why simply overturning Citizens United doesn't go far enough. And we will continue to work on that as well. It seems like he should be a natural ally. So far that hasn't been the case, so we'll continue to work on it. And let's see. Looks like there's no other comments yet, so keep going on that. Let's see, Marin, California. So I was just at a house party this last weekend organized by Catherine, an awesome supporter in Mill Valley, California, which is just north of San Francisco, for those of you who don't know the area. We had a great discussion with about 25 folks who attended, and out of the event, it is looking like we'll be reviving our Marin County Move to Amend group, which has been kind of dormant. So if you live in the North Bay area and would like to get involved in this newly forming group, not just Marin, but Sonoma County or northern San Francisco, then please get in touch with us, and we'd love to plug you in. And signing up on our volunteer page and indicating that you'd like to help start a group would be the best way to do that. And whether you live in Marin, California, or all the way across the country somewhere in Tennessee or Idaho, you can sign up on that volunteer page and get plugged in too. So wanted to make sure folks in the northern Bay Area know that there is a group forming, and there's already somebody who has said that she would help put that together. But if that's not near you and you want to plug in, then please sign up on our volunteer page, and one of our interns will be in touch with you next week, and we'll get started. So those are some of the highlights from September. What's looking ahead to October, Pledge to Amend is underway. Election season is here. It's an off year, so we're talking about mostly municipal elections, but many, many states, including California, where I live, have a lot of municipal, local level elections happening this year, and we want to participate in those through our Pledge to Amend campaign. So for folks who don't know, Pledge to Amend is a pledge that candidates running for office take, where they state publicly whether they will use their office to support the We the People amendment, and they can talk about how. And then they also have the opportunity to, in their own words, say what they think the impact of Citizens United has been on our democracy. And so it's important for everybody who's running for office to, let the voters know where they stand. And the reason why we don't just focus on candidates for state office or federal office, which might seem like that makes more sense if we were talking about a constitutional amendment. Those are the two bodies of government that directly will decide on an amendment. However, this is a political issue that affects all levels of government and all parts of politics, not just government, but all kinds of ways. So obviously, it's something that people who are wanting to be leaders should have a position on, and strategically speaking, oftentimes those who are, city council members now are the ones who are most likely to run for state representative or state senator, in 2 to 4 to 5 years, or maybe even run for Congress. And so it's important that we educate folks who are our representatives early on how this issue affects every aspect of democracy, that they need to take a position, that they need to stand with us, and that we will vote accordingly. So the other part of Pledge to Amend is a voter pledge that as a voter, this is going to be a litmus test issue for you, and you're not going to vote for anybody who doesn't support the We the People amendment. So what we need for Pledge to Amend is to get this pledge in front of candidates. So you can help by going to candidate forums, by sending letters to candidates running for office in your community, asking them to take a pledge, and then all of the responses are online on our website. And then we will let people know, whether folks pledged or whether they refused or whether they didn't respond at all. And that's important information for all of us who are voting to have. And so Pledge to Amend is a really important campaign. And it also helps seed the way for congressional supporters. So not so much in an off year. We'll be doing Pledge to Amend again next year too, focusing more on Congress people. But this year, help us get this in front of people running for school board, city council, county commission, dog catcher, doesn't matter. This issue actually affects almost everything. And so pretty much anyone who wants to be in charge of any part of our government should be clear where they stand. So that's Pledge to Amend, and that's getting underway in a big way. So we'll be sending out some emails soon, and folks can start to plug into that right now. We're also launching a campaign next month to ask folks to hold house parties in support of Move to Amend and invite your friends and neighbors. So maybe you want to hold a Halloween party, or maybe it's a holiday party as we get closer to the end of the year. House parties are a great way to just bring people together. If you want, you can use our DVD, our 28-minute kind of mini documentary introduction to Move to Amend called Legalize Democracy. So you can just pop that in the TV, everybody could watch it, and then you can have a discussion following. If you'd rather actually just have a discussion with folks, about the issue in a more open format, that works too. If you want to just have a party and bring everybody together and then let them know why you support Move to Amend and then ask them to do the same, that works as well. So you have a lot of say over how you want to do it, but we are asking everybody to think about, between now and the end of the year, bringing your friends together. It could be a small group, it could be a large party, it could be tagged on to a holiday party that you normally do, but putting Move to Amend into the program. So we have a whole page on our website with all the resources that you need to get going, including invites and ideas for what to do in terms of the programming and more. You can get a house party kit from our website, so you can have materials there, pass the petition, and collect donations. So Garrett will post the link to the house party page, and you can sign up starting right now if you'd like to do a house party. We would love to have your help in that department to help get this out to more people. So that's going to be happening in October. And then also in October, our national team, which is our board and our staff, are going to be meeting in Sacramento, near where we're headquartered, to make plans for 2018. So if you're in Northern California, we would invite you to come to our open house on October 14th. We'd love to meet you in person and see you there. If you're not nearby, then Laura and I will definitely be reporting out on the highlights and kind of what has come from that meeting when we do our live report in October. But that's coming up, and our staff team is all getting ready with plans for next year. Move to Amend is a highly organized organization, and for those of you who don't know, we actually have a strategic plan to get the amendment passed. Maybe Garrett, I'm just thinking of this off the cuff, but if you could include a link to our plan to show folks what we're talking about. So every year we look at the goals for the plan in the year ahead, and what programmatically we need to do, how we're doing on the plan, and so all of that is going to happen in our fall meeting next month. And so encourage you to check out the plan if you haven't seen it yet. Check out how highly organized Move to Amend is. We're the only amendment group that actually has a written strategic plan that is available to everyone, to be transparent and to make it easy for you to engage and see everything we're doing. So we're really proud of that. We put it in place last year. It's a really participatory process to build it, and we would love to get your feedback on it. And then also next month, I will be headed to Washington, D.C. again in late October, having meetings probably mostly with senators and senator staff, again, to try and meet our goal to get the We the People amendment introduced in the Senate, but probably do some House meetings as well. I'll be doing a report to staffers in the House and a legislative briefing for them. So hopefully that'll help answer some questions for folks who are still not sure about coming on as co-sponsors in the House. So it'll be a busy week. It'll be, I think, the third week in October. So looking forward to that and seeing all of you who are out that way. And then there are others on our team who will also be doing some traveling in October. As Laura mentioned at the beginning, for those of you who were here, you heard, but for anybody who didn't, she had to sign off because it wasn't working. But she's in Ohio right now, outside Toledo, with George Friday, one of our other board members, and the two of them are doing a speaking tour through Ohio starting tomorrow. Garrett will post a link to the calendar if you're in Ohio. We'd love to see you at one of those events. Greg Coleridge, our outreach director, will be doing a speaking tour through Pennsylvania, and I think a couple spots in Delaware too, or at least one. So that will also be in October. So we'll be doing 2 tours during the month of October. I'll be in Arizona the first week of November, and I'll be in Oregon the first week of December. So pretty much every other week starting now, and right now I'm in LA, I will be on the road for Move to Amend. So it's going to be a busy rest of the year for yours truly. And actually I wanted to mention, I got kind of distracted because of the fact that Laura's mic wasn't working, but I wanted to say why I'm here in LA. One of our staffers lives here, Jessica, so I'm here in her living room. But we had a great meeting yesterday with Allison, one of the co-directors of Wolfpack, Jessica and Daniel, who's one of our board members who lives down here in LA too. and I met for a good bit of the day with her, with Allison, and I can't really talk about the specifics yet. We're still working those out, but I just want to give a shout out to Wolfpack and say that we're really looking forward to partnering more closely with Wolfpack in the year ahead, and finding ways to collaborate and work together. So it was a great meeting. It was great to get to know her better, and looking forward to deepening the relationship between our two organizations. This doesn't mean that Move to Amend is adopting a convention-only strategy. We continue to feel as though we need to move the amendment forward in Congress, but we also need to not take the convention off the table and begin to talk about what that might look like, how to make sure that stays within the realm of what we want to see and nothing else, and also, though, builds up the ability to potentially go around Congress if Congress refuses to act. So makes a lot of sense for us to work with the organization that's been working on a convention all along and doing all the research to understand that better. And hopefully we can provide them some resources on how to build this movement in a way that prioritizes the voices of marginalized people, people of color, low-income people, who are some of the folks who have the biggest concern about what is called the runaway convention, which, no matter whether you feel like that's something that could happen or not, the reality is that, there are folks who are very interested in trying to see a convention used to roll back rights for people that have been gained over the last 150 years. So we can't let that happen. So those are the kinds of things that we were talking about yesterday, and we're really excited about continuing that conversation with everybody who's working with Wolfpack. And they're another organization that's very grassroots, and not a professional NGO based in Washington, D.C., so it's a good fit in that way as well. So that's sort of my report about what's been going on, but I am happy to go into any details about any of that if anyone has any questions, or any area that I didn't raise that folks want to ask about. So I will take a few minutes here to check and see if there are any questions. Let's see. I can see some of your comments. This is working better than it has in the past on that. So, yep, Charlie, we're excited for working with Wolfpack. So I think that'll be good for both of our organizations. And Greg, yep, basically between now and the end of the year will be cooling. Although you're going to be doing quite a bit of travel too, so I know that it's not just me. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Now's your chance. I'll give you a couple minutes to think about it. And in the meantime, I'll say that our next live report will be on Wednesday, October 25th. And we'll fill you in on everything that happened in October. I will be in DC as we do that, so we'll see how it goes in terms of logistics, but hopefully we can pull that all off. And Laura and I will talk about our national team meeting and what's coming up for the rest of the year, basically. So, thanks for your comment, Doug. Thanks for being here with me. Thanks to all of you. Sorry about the technical difficulties in the beginning, but we worked it out, I think. And it's looking like nobody has any questions. So if you're in Ohio, I hope you'll go check out Laura and George and join them for an event. And I hope you'll sign up to do a house party with us sometime between now and the end of the year. Let us know how we can help you do that. We would love to have your friends plugged in. Greg asks, any reflections on the corporate-friendly so-called healthcare debate / bill? Well, in all honesty, I was traveling on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, all day we're in this meeting with Allison. So the latest I saw is that it's dead because some key Republicans are opposed to it for now, although the Republicans might try to bring it back. But I mean, basically, my take on it is the same as it has been, which we've talked about on the live report before, which is that if we had had single payer on the table in the first place back when Obama was president and we were, overhauling healthcare at that point, then we wouldn't be in this mess. And it's really the responsibility of, in a lot of ways, the Democratic Party and some key organizations that help facilitate the real solution to the problem, which is, Medicare for all, single payer, not being really part of the discussion. And instead, we ended up with a healthcare reform that still prioritized corporate bottom line profits and made sure that insurance companies had a seat at the table. And so we ended up with a proposal that really actually failed a lot of Americans, and there is a lot of good reason that people are upset about Obamacare. And so that really planted the seeds for the situation that we're in now, where Republicans are trying to get rid of it. Having said all that, Obamacare was a big improvement in a lot of ways for a number of people, in that at least they had health insurance. So that is kind of where we stand, and it's a great lesson in why we have to fight for what we really need. We have to fight for the true solutions, and we can apply that analogy to our fight to pass an amendment that isn't just going to overturn Citizens United and barely slap a Band-Aid on the problem, but actually we need to systemically solve, the gaping wound in our democracy that is giving corporate constitutional rights to corporations so that they can use the Constitution against us, and equating spending money in elections with the First Amendment. So that's kind of the main way that I look at the healthcare bill, and I'm sure that this isn't the end. Once again, the bill is sort of dead, but with everything going on, and Republicans have basically already said, McConnell's already said, they're going to try again. So we have to stay vigilant, but we also have to fight for what we want, not just defend these attacks. So I think with that, I'll sign off and just remind everybody that, there's truly nothing more systemic than what we are doing here at Move to Amend in terms of solving the problem of our current non-ability to influence our government. And so I hope that all of you who joined us are thinking about how you can plug in even more, signing up on the links that Garrett posted. And if you have any questions for us, you can always find us through our website, movetoamend.org. You can email us at info@movetoamend.org. And if email doesn't work for you, then you can call us at 916-318-8040, and a real human being will answer your question and do the best that we can to get you plugged in however works best for you. So thanks, everyone. Good night. I know that Laura and George are tuning in, so good luck on your tour. Good luck, Greg. All the folks in Ohio who are helping to put together that tour, thank you for your work. And I will see you next month on the 25th, if not before. Let's see, how do I get here to end it? There we go. Okay, have a great night, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. And again, if you're listening on the recording and you want to post a question after the fact, we'd be happy to answer it. So please don't hesitate to let us know what you're thinking, and we'll get back to you. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, Garrett, for helping to run the questions. Take care.